Hello and welcome to ComX Recent Reads. This is a show about comics, of course. But it's not just any. Well, it is any comics. I was going to say it isn't just any comics, but it is any comics. Whatever we have read recently, hence the title ComX Recent Reads. I'm your host, Sis, publisher at ComX Studios, and tonight we have Brad, who I'm going to introduce as the epic Transformer artist. What are you going to share tonight?
Okay, hi everyone. Yeah, so
I don't think into this, just the topic. Just
the topic. Yeah, so will come as no great surprise to anyone. I'm sharing the latest Image Comics Transformers series that's just been out since late last year.
Cool. And then we've got Janine, who is the owner of Heroes HQ, and she's here to talk about
the Phantom through publishers. The Phantom. That's
cool.
What my latest read is. Yeah, going through my box and reading the earlier ones.
Cool. And then we've got Ryan Christopher, who is from. Is it Corner Box? Sorry, I've just forgotten for a second.
It's Corner Box Comic Art.
Corner Box Comic Art. There's the full title. And tonight you will be talking about
Magneto Testament.
I'm looking forward to this. I haven't heard of this one.
Yeah. Exciting.
Cool. And Ed, do I do the same to you?
Sure.
We're sort of on the fly here again. Okay, we've got Ed, who is the creator of Radical Comics. And he is talking about, he's going to put himself on the screen.
I'm going to be doing Cut Down by Roger Stinson and Dave Dye.
Ooh, signed as well. Nice.
Nice.
So that's everyone. That's what we'll be talking about tonight.
What about you?
Me, I am actually doing something naughty because I was meant to read another book, but time got away from me. So I'm actually doing a book I read last week instead of this week, which is still in the rules. It's called. This is like a prototype. So issue 1's not there. This is issue 1. So you can't get it in a comic shop. So that's really bad. You can't get it anywhere. But I'm going to talk about this one because it will maybe be coming out one day. So I'm the host. So I'm the one who's meant to still talk. Okay. I guess what we can do now is let's talk about. I'm going to pick on. Yeah, we'll go in the same order we went on before. Brad, tell us about Transformers.
Yeah, no, I guess obviously, I'm not reading a lot of stuff at the moment, so this one I'd kind of put off for a little while, and I guess there's obviously been a lot of history with Transformers comics that go back to the 80s, where obviously we had Marvel did their own thing, and then you had Marvel UK doing their own thing as well, which was obviously was quite a different thing that really expanded on a lot of the lore and things like that. And then it was nothing for quite a while after the 80s, and then it was revived probably in the late 90s, early 2000s, maybe. I think Dreamwave were the guys that picked up the license. And the guy that ran that company was a great artist, but not a good guy at running a business and paying his staff. And unfortunately, that kind of fell over after only maybe a year to 18 months. But certainly, the product at the time was what people wanted. Then it went over to another company whose name eludes me for a while, but they brought back Simon Furman, who was one of the great writers in the 80s, particularly in the UK run. And they did like another kind of a reboot there, and that went for a while. And then it went over to IDW, which probably had the longest run of Transformers comics for quite some time. And it was extremely popular in that there was a couple of titles, and one of them was the Lost Light series, which It was basically about a bunch of Autobots that went off on this quest, and it had a very Justice League kind of J. DeMatteis feel about it. There was a lot of humor, but
okay.
a lot of darkness about it as well, and introduced a lot of characters that weren't part of the G1 stuff. That went for quite a while, and they had a really good run, but it kind of ran out of gas, and they ended up kind of relinquishing or losing the license. I think it might have been early last year. Anyway, after a little break, it's now fallen to Robert Kirkman's print, his house, and he's teamed up with Image Comics to publish basically a reboot. And I'm always, at the time, I was kind of skeptical. I was like, after such a long run on IDW, I was thinking to myself, they probably need a break. Let's just give everybody a break for a couple of years. Let the dust settle, let's not, rush back into things again. And so I was interested, but I kind of stepped, I just went, I'm just going to sort of sit back and see how this goes. And anyway, good mate of mine, Tony Nasser, from Comic Empire up here, we talk weekly, and he's like, dude, you gotta read this, and I was like, yeah, I don't know. I kind of succumbed about a month ago to it, and I thought, yeah, I'm gonna go check this out. And long story short, it's I'm really into it. It's another reboot, but it's very different to anything that's gone before. I think the words are, it's basically the first 5 issues were produced by one guy, Daniel Johnson. He's done both the story and the artwork. And I think the 3 words that I've used to describe it to people is it's bold, it's visceral, and it's dynamic. And that applies to both the story and the art. I think there was a lot of initial flack with the art style, because it is pretty rough, but it is very dynamic. And I think what's happened is people have gone into it and gone, wow, this is actually really good. So if you like, Ed, if you might be able to just bring up that picture there, that's the first cover. So you get a feel for what the art style is, right? It's not slick, it's not the IDW, where you can see every cog and wheel and piece of machinery. It's pretty, faithful to, what you used to see in the cartoons in the 80s.
Like old school.
Yeah, and the funny thing that I'd also heard about it was that, you know how you see snippets on the internet, right? And you see certain panels and you kind of go, oh man, that is brutal. Like, what the heck is that? And I thought to myself, are they just going for shock value here? Like, is that going to run out? I mean, they're basically, without sort of spoiling things, there's, two very well-loved characters that just basically in the first issue get brutally executed. And it's like, damn, it kind of sets the tone for the story.
Yeah, it would.
The other points I'd make about it is it does follow the original sort of G1 rough storyline where they crash on Earth, both the Autobots and Decepticons in the Ark, and they're slowly getting reactivated, but there's only a minimal cast. So there's only 4 or 5 on each side at the moment. Some of the really big hitters haven't been seen yet.
Oh, wow.
So it does a lot with a very minimal cast, and for such a wide palette of there's God how many bloody characters there are in that franchise, it does it really well. So that's one thing that I really noticed about it. But yeah, it's I'll see if I can share another picture. There's a the style is quite interesting. Just see if I can find another one here that I've got.
Alright. I'll dance to fill some time.
Yeah, sorry, mate.
All good, all good.
There you go.
Don't look at the dancing. Get the picture.
Yeah, there's another one. It doesn't take itself too seriously in that, I'm a big fan of the old school sort of onomatopoeia, right? Like the old pow, zam, crash, and this does it really, really well. You can even see where, I don't know, maybe not the whole picture very well, but there's a panel there that it's got Prime running towards the camera, and in the background they've written, the song.
That's awesome.
Yeah, which is, like some people would go, oh, that's dumb, but I think it's cool, and as you can see, there's a lot of onomatopoeia going on in there, and I love that in comics. I just think that's, really great, and it just adds kind of that old school feeling to it. But yeah, it's a really interesting read. It's the art style, the writing. It's got something going for it. And I think the last thing I'd probably say about it is, you don't need to be a fan of the lore. You don't need to have a full understanding of the whole thing. You can basically pick it up and read it, and you don't need to know the backstory or the history or any of that kind of stuff. So cool. That's what I'm reading. At the risk of over speaking, I'll leave it at that. But no, that's what I'm reading, and I'm enjoying it thoroughly. So yeah,
it sounds awesome. Cool. So, should I go to the Cat Struggler?
They're not wanting to.
I've seen 2 colours so far.
Oh, it's Possum and Bruce, and they're not sharing. So never mind.
Bruce.
No.
Bruce. I just like to put it out there, Max. If you're watching, her cat's name called Bruce. That's a human name. He has a real problem with me calling Doug Doug. So
really?
I just thought I'd put it out there. Someone else does this, not just me.
He's Bruce Wayne. He's Bruce Wayne. When I got him,
Wayne. Oh, that's even better.
So when I got him, he had this mask on, So we named him, and Possum came in as Catwoman, but she didn't come to Selena, so she comes to Possum.
So. Oh, that's a shame.
Well, I chose and have read when you asked me, what books have I read recently? As I'm filing comics, as I'm going through the old stock that I've got, the 60-year-old comics, I've just stopped and read a few of those as I've gone. But my most favourite comic, the one that I read more often, is The Phantom. So the latest one that's come out, and we're nearly up to issue 2000 with The Phantom. So it's been going. That'll be a really neat book. But the replicas, as I was going through boxes, I came across some of the replicas. I'm not lucky enough to have the early comics, nor can I afford them. But they brought out a whole heap of replicas, which I've put down and can't find now. But I read, and I love and I remember reading them when I was a child. So my grandfather had them, those along with the war stories and a lot of other things. So way back in the 60s, I was reading them, and the Algiers story is the one where the Phantom goes to New York to see and ask Diana to marry him. So when Lee Falk started writing them and bringing them together, it was going to be. See, they're not playing.
Disagreement.
That's Possum. She's a lot of noise. So when he started it was done by it's King Syndicate. It's owned by an American company, and in about the 1942, I think, maybe 1936 to 42. It was done in America, and then it came here. It was printed here somewhere in those early war years, and then it was not very gender specific, and it certainly was colonialistic in its way of a white bloke going into Bengali and teaching these savages how to behave. It wasn't the best, but we've come a long way, and it's certainly not written that way now.
Yeah, that's good.
But when I love the story of Diana, her mother doesn't approve, so takes her out of New York, and then she doesn't meet up with the Phantom, and he can't ask her to marry him, and she wants to live with him. She's an Olympic swimmer, so she's done really, really well, and a socialite, always up there with the fashion. And it was in a woman's magazine when it was first printed. So,
okay.
it sort of, it was, what to do and how to be and all the rest of it. So that's the sort of books that I read when I was younger. And, this particular one with the mother interfering and ripping up letters from him, and her not being asked at that time and being taken out of the country, and so that they don't meet up because he wasn't
Wow.
the person that she was going to marry by the parents. And then there's one book later on that I really, really love, and it's where she gets married and goes to live in the jungle and Skull Rock and all the rest of it, and all the local people build a tree house for her, and she has twins, but the mother has the vapors, and she's, this book's about this mother having the vapors. I read them now and I think, oh yeah, no, I don't think so, but your kids have got to be happy and can marry whoever they like. But it sort of set the whole scene of this hero, and of course the girl Phantom as well. People think that for all these generations, and the chronicles have been around for hundreds of years, and the ghost who walks has been out there, and it's been the same person. But whenever the Phantom got injured, got stabbed or shot or whatever, the girl Phantom came into it, and she had to make her own costume, and everyone was anti it and all the rest of it. So,
Oh wow.
she's sort of was a hero there too. She went out and fought the bad guys as well. So it's had a lifetime of colonialistic background, and male privilege stuff, and girls with the vapors. So and how to dress properly and put your makeup on, and how to make your husband tea before he gets home and take your curlers out in those early years. But it's gone on, and it's got better, and there's Australians doing the artwork, and it's done here in Sydney, and it's in newsagents and comic books, and we should be supporting them to keep going, and buying it, and enjoying it, and supporting them in their new endeavours, and where they're going to. So that's my read, and I love the Algiers one. I can't. I did find it, and then the cats fought. So can't find it again. I put it up in front of the screen. Don't know what I've done with it.
That's okay.
Oh, they're all over the floor. That's why.
That's why.
Yeah.
Nice one, Bruce and Celine, who doesn't answer to Celine.
No. That's Possum. So this is another one that I love. I don't know if you can see it. That's an original.
Yeah,
The Tiger's Lair is one of them. And these are all replicas. But if you ever come across one that is called Algiers. That's the one you should read if you want to see a mother interfering with a young daughter's love. I can't find it. Okay, that's me. Over and out.
Back to me, I guess. So I'm looking forward to this one because I am a massive X-Men and Magneto fan. So I'm looking forward to hearing about this story that Ryan has. And Ryan,
Cool.
over to you, my friend.
So I wanted to talk about this one because Magneto is sort of back in the spotlight as a character for everyone who has been watching X-Men 97. He's been a humongous part of the first season, as well as through the finale of the Krakoan era of comics, which has been the most recent run of X-Men that started with Jonathan Hickman and his House and Powers of X/10, however it's pronounced. And I guess I'll start with like just a tiny bit of background. So when Magneto first comes in the comics in X-Men #1, he's very much a cartoon cookie cutter villain. He was intended to be a villain of the week. He wasn't intended to be someone that would have a lasting and substantial impact on the X-Men and on comics. So he appears in a handful of issues across multiple titles, including X-Men, Avengers, Journey into Mystery, through the first 10 years of comics, and then he sort of disappears. Then we get into Chris Claremont taking control of the X-Men universe, and we see Magneto come back in a really big way as the primary villain for the X-Men, and more of his background starts to get fleshed out. We find out that he is a German Jew, a survivor of the Holocaust, and we find out about his sort of lifelong friendship and rivalry with Charles Xavier. And then he gets put on trial for his crimes, etc., before coming full circle and basically being an X-Man himself. But none of that's the beginning of what makes Magneto Magneto. It all comes down to this wonderful story written by Greg Pak, who is famous for World War Hulk that he did with John Romita Jr. And the art on this book is by Carmine Giandomenico, who did Spider-Man Noir and the Rebirth series of The Flash by Joshua Williamson, which is phenomenal. And it's this book here. It's called Magneto Testament. This book covers a time period in Magneto's life from sort of November 1935 to October 1944. So during this time, he's between 9 and 18 years of age. And it comes about, the book opens that he's just living a normal life as a child with his mother, his uncle, and his grandfather in Germany. But the Nazi party is on the rise. So things start to very quickly change and shift for the Eisenhardt family, trying to figure out where they belong in this new Germany that is arising. Like so many Jewish people at that time, there was a real sense of confusion as what was going on, and it's represented. The way that this story of this family is represented is as close to a real life factual account as you will find in a lot of literature. I have read a lot of literature that classifies itself as Holocaust literature that takes exorbitant liberties with the facts and figures around who was doing what at what time. This is one of the most heavily researched comics that's probably ever been put out. It been done in collaboration with Holocaust survivors, Holocaust museums, and a combination of first-hand accounts to form something that is as authentic as possible, to the point where it is a very hard read. We see a 9-year-old boy who has not come into his powers. He doesn't come into his powers through the entire book. We get a suggestion that there may be something about him that is different. He seems to have luck with finding metallic items such as coins when it comes to finding enough money for the family to eat when they're in the ghettos. But we see a child slowly have his entire world ripped apart by the rise of Nazi Germany. And it forges him into the person who would, I mean, if you want to know why he's so protective of mutants and mutant kind, why he's so against prejudice, why he is so quick to use his power to defend people who are powerless, this is the book that will give you all the reasons.
Wow.
Yeah, it's where he meets the mother of his children, who they work together to try and survive the horrors of being put into Auschwitz-Birkenau concentration camp. It details his accounts working as a Sonderkommando. A Sonderkommando was a hand-picked, fit, able-bodied Jewish male whose job was to take the bodies from the gas chambers and dispose of them. So to burn them in pits, to basically aid the Nazis in covering up the crimes that were happening throughout Eastern Europe during that time. And it deals with close calls. It deals with reuniting with friends from before the camps inside. So there's a lot of hope there, but there's an incredible amount of despair. And I think it's a must read, because I think that the visuals enhance the narrative so well. Greg Pak's written an amazing story that could stand alone as, say, a novella. But Carmine's artwork, it's colored by Matt Hollingsworth, who colored Preacher. He colored the Eisner Award-winning Death, The High Cost of Living, and he did the Matt Fraction and David Aha's Hawkeye. So the entire book just has a fantastic but somber tone throughout. And it doesn't shy away from putting the atrocities on the page. So for someone like me who is a fanatic about the X-Men, much like Sis, and Magneto is, as someone who's grown up with a disability, so been part of a marginalized community for my whole life, Magneto and his ideologies have always been quite appealing to me. And it gives it another level to the character. Like, if you think you love Magneto now, or you think that he's a character that deserves attention, when you read this book, like, your heart breaks for the character, and it gives immense weight to going back and reading those stories and everything that occurred in his life after that age. So I couldn't recommend it higher.
That's really cool.
Can we get a look at some of the artwork?
Yeah, for sure.
Oh yeah.
I don't have any slides prepared, but Some of the pages are quite dark, so I'm trying to find something that might present well.
No, it's good artwork.
Oh, nice. It looks a bit like Tim Sale.
There is that sort of quality to it, yeah. But I think it's if you read some of Carmine's other work, like his work on the Flash, because the color palette is so different, it almost looks like a different artist has drawn the book.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but it's look at these pages drawn in the snow.
Wow.
Yeah, it looks good.
Yeah. So I reckon, and if you buy the 2014 second printing, it also comes with additional essays. It comes with an additional short story that is another true-to-life account of a Jewish artist who was commissioned by Mengele to paint pictures of gypsies in the gypsy camp. She basically kept people alive by taking her time because they were so obsessed with her art that they wanted each piece to be finished. And she's thought, well, the longer I take to paint these people, the more chance they've got of surviving the war. And it talks about her battle to try and have her paintings returned by the Auschwitz Holocaust Museum, which has been an ongoing battle since the early 2000s, I believe. But it's got additional lectures, and this is an edition which is also recommended for schools. So it's got a whole bunch of pieces to structure like a learning curriculum around this particular book.
Wow.
So yeah, it's this is the cover. It's the 2014 second edition print. You'll know if it's the one you're after because on the back here, it's got a little blurb about the additional content.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that's the one you want to get if you want to get all the additional content.
Cool.
Thank you.
Back to me, I guess. Well, one unfortunate thing about that is I now have another comic that I want to buy. So, yeah, so adding to my list. Thanks a lot, Ryan.
I think I have a copy of that in my bank issues.
Oh, well, I'll be talking to you. Cool. Well,
yeah, it's definitely made me want to go out and get it now.
Yeah, same. Ed, do you want to go first or me?
Yeah, I'll go.
You okay? Okay, cool.
Okay, so I've got Cut Down by Roger Stitson and Dave Dye, and it's a one-shot book. It's really good. One of the things I really like about it is the minimalist style with this. There's nothing on the inside cover. It's just the indicia. Then there's nothing in the back inside cover.
Wow.
That's kind of neat.
The drawing on the back, it matches the story panel of the story as well.
Oh, okay,
if
cool.
you wanted to read it like that. So it's obviously Dave Dye, really great artwork. It's a really good cartooning. And there's stuff like there's repeated motifs. You see the truck. Whose finger is it? That one there. That repeats through the story. And what else have I got? I wrote some notes. So there's the panel to panel flow. You see like this side, it's like it's moving. There's not too, like everything's a different size. Like it's really good. And the use of, see how Dave, not every panel has a full background.
Hmm.
So it's a really good use
yeah.
of when to use minimal backgrounds and when to use full ones. And this motif of the spotlight, like on the cover, is used a lot, and it's really effective. And there's a lot of stuff, like I was saying before, like the visual callbacks. Where is it? There's a picture of that girl there, and that comes back later. And so it's like a Twilight Zone story of this guy who's like a scumbag, and he gets his comeuppance. Let me put that thing up there from Nick.
I like Dave's artwork, where he doesn't make the background messy. It's about the story that he's telling at the time, and that he doesn't fill in that area where you can see the bookcase. You just imagine it's there, sort of thing.
Yeah. It's really
Dangerous Dave. He never fails to deliver, right? And his style is very reminiscent of those old Commando books from back in the day, which goes to his pedigree, right? But it's a winning style,
It's great.
It does have a more of a British style than an American style.
Yeah, Dave is just a phenomenal visual storyteller, and I think that is a great example. And it's from my experience with reading Dave's stuff, it doesn't matter if you give him 6 pages or 60 pages. He knows how to pace and plot a story. And thank you for sharing that.
Cool. And there's some really good tempo builds, and the way Rogers Stitson has scripted it and structured the story, it works really great. And he does this really cool thing, if I can find it, but there's a lot of the radio's playing through the background, and the song lyrics are like allegorically telling the story as well. So that's really clever way he's done that. And when he goes into this mysterious fog, and then there's a radio serial on with the darkness is descending like a filthy blanket, and it's reinforcing the story of what's happening, which is very clever. It's really it's a very well made comic book. So it's a really good example of when the artist and the writer are right in the pocket with each other. It's all in sync and it's all working really well. And it's good comic books. Very good. So that's my one.
Where's that available, Ed?
That is, you can get that on the ComX shop.
Okay, it's on ComX. Yeah, cool.
Yeah. Okay, so it's now my turn. Or is that a cue to do the ad? I don't know how it works, Ed.
Do your one first, and then we'll do that.
I'll do mine first. Okay, cool. Well, I'm doing a book because I have read it recently. Probably isn't the best choice because this book is a prototype. I'll put it there. This is a prototype. It's not even a proof. We haven't even made a proof for this one. This is like printed and chopped up and all that, by the writer. Better have expenses. Sorry, dude. So, it's Twisted Fate. It is written by Josh Elliott, and the artist is Jeff Kramer. He's the artist, like he does the pencils, the inks, the colors, the lettering, everything. When I first read this, as well as when I just read it again last week, just to double check that it was everything I remembered it to be, I don't have that technical knowledge that Ed has, so I can't point out things like that. But what I can, it wasn't. The art's good. The art's good. Don't get me wrong. The art's good. I don't know if I picked a good page or not, but the art is good. But that's not what sucked me in. It was the concept. Maybe it's been done before, and I just never come across it before. But the fairies are actually they're called fays. Sorry, they're like fairies, and they're in this world with us, but they're in the food chain. So cats like to eat them, rats like to eat them, owls, bats. Apparently their blood is ridiculously tasty. And there's also, if that's not enough, there's these demon type creatures called the soulless who also love to eat them. And they have this ridiculous craving for sugar. So they put their life at risk to get sugar. And that's what this book is more of like an introduction to that whole concept. Where they are just going from house to house trying to get snacks. And, Mars Bar feeds them all, that kind of thing. And they're just avoiding being eaten. And, being killed by pretty much everything out there at night. And just the whole idea, because I'm used to fairies being these magical, wonderful things. And in this, they're being slaughtered. Like half the cast is dead by the end of this issue.
So basically, you're saying it's basically fairy Watership Down, is what you're saying.
Yeah, pretty much. And you're introduced. I'm told that you're introduced to the whole tribe or whatever afterwards in the next issue. But this one's just to introduce that whole concept that, they've got a pretty tough life. One of them, a rat eats them. Another 3, I think, are eaten by the soulless. Another one, a cat gets. I can't remember how they all died. One of them, that's right. One of them got chopped in half when a glass fell on them. So, it's pretty full on. I went into it thinking it was a fantasy story, but I think it's better classified as a horror. Because it's got that fantasy element to it, but they just keep being slaughtered and dying, and blood everywhere, and arms being eaten off, and that's one I read last week. I have read it a couple of times now, and I don't know what else to say. It might be coming out, it might not. There's a lot of confusion about that, so for that factor alone, I probably shouldn't have picked this one.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're reading the book we're not going to be able to get. What are you doing?
But it's I'm pretty bad about that.
You're a tease, Sis.
I am. But in the last couple of weeks, that's the only thing I've read. So, which is really bad because I have this giant pile of 400 indie comics that I'm meant to read that I should have actually gone into and read some comics this week. But such is life. There you go. I'll put it out there. A comic you may never be able to get. Awesome.
Have I got time to show you the panel of Mother interfering?
Yeah.
Oh.
See if you can read this. Trying hard not to bend my spine.
Unfortunately, we can't zoom in.
Can we put?
The software doesn't allow for it. I can get the whole page that way. Nice one.
I could write a much better note.
So Mother says this is goodbye. And Diane is saying, darling, I'm just heading away. Mother's not well. Well, there's nothing wrong with Mother. But
nice one, Mum.
But this is a replica of the original. That way.
Classic mum manipulation.
Camera's always fun to work.
So that's the actual replica of one of those early books.
That's really cool.
So that's from about the 2007, I think. They were brought out on the back of things. Yeah. So sorry, that was just me finishing after your horror non-book.
Non-book. My horror non-book. Yes, I like that. I'm sticking with that one. And oh god, I've got so many windows open here. No, that's not it. Where'd it go? Oh, there it is. I've got too many tabs on my computer. So this is the part where we've done the ad. So, no, we haven't. Have we?
Haven't seen the ad yet.
No.
Do you have the link for the application form for if anyone wants to come on the show who's watching?
Did I put it into the banners? I might not have been that smart.
Well, I'll play the ad while you have a look at that. And this is for the Oz, for the comics shop. And if you want to get a copy of Cut Down and a bunch of other stuff, there's tons of stuff on there. Aussie Comics. This is where you get it from.
Are you feeling a little down? Tired of reading the same old books again and again? Looking for something different? Why not head over to the ComX shop now and pick yourself up some freshly inked inspiration?
So there you go.
Now, what I'm doing is testing the link I just wrote out because I just realized, is it actually the link? Yes, it is. Look at that. Okay, so I will put it up. This is it here. So comx.show/interest. There's a form there to fill out to say that you're interested in any of our shows, but this is one of them that you can tick. And there's little tick boxes, which one you want to come on to. The beauty of this show, unlike the other shows which have a few rules, this show is you need to have read a comic in the last week or two that you're willing to talk about. 2 weeks, yeah. That's pretty much it. You can be a fan of the show, you can be an artist, you can be a shop owner, you can be a dude doing entrepreneurship type stuff. You can be a great artist who likes to smoke up in the corner, or you can just be Ed.
No,
just no link. You don't get a choice in that, my friend.
No crazies, please.
No crazies.
Please.
No. So yeah, so that's where you go. Fill out the form. All that gives us is your email, your name, all that stuff. So I can get in contact with you and we can talk about it. Again, that is for other shows as well, but this is the one that has the least restrictions on what you need to do to get into it. You just need to have read a comic in the last 2 weeks that you're willing to talk about. You can't just have read it and then come on and go, yeah, I read this. And come on, Sis, take me off the screen. Yeah, so yeah, that's it. I'll take that off the screen now. Another thing about that link, though, comx.show, all our shows have their own websites now. Well, funnily enough, except this one. But that's only because we've only had one episode. So I wasn't able to make a site around one episode. So once we've had about 2 or 3 of them, I'll be able to make a site. And this one will have its own site as well. But your Drink and Draw, your Chinwag, it's even got the old Spotlight show in there if you want to check that out. That doesn't run anymore, but it was still a very interesting show. It talked about technique. I'm going to forget a show. I just know it. Wednesday's Oz ComX show, which is all about talking about someone's new book or a book they've just brought out or they're about to bring out, or in the case of a show that we've got coming up in a couple of weeks, 4 books that they're about to bring out. So that will be an interesting episode. So yeah.
It's Chinwag.
I think that's all. I said Chinwag, thank God. Let's make a comic books in there as well. I've got Ed sitting in front of me, and I forgot that that's a separate show. That the 2 shows I do with Ed are not just one show. Let's go comic books in there. I think I finished it because I was trying to think of a way to present it. I think I got lazy. Sorry about that, Ed, and just put the episodes there and wrote a little bit about each one. So yeah, so this one will be in there in another couple of weeks. This will have its own website, and you can check it out. Each website has a little bit of information about the people who appeared on it, so that's also pretty cool. Some have transcripts, which are written by bots, so they are a good laugh because they are about 1 in every 10 words are wrong. So they're interesting to read. And I don't know if they're AI. Oh, I should probably check that because AI is a naughty, evil thing.
Don't tell Dean Rankin about that, mate.
I was going to say.
He'll go supernova on you.
Well, I was getting transcripts from these guys long before the word AI was heard anywhere. So I think it's just software that hears words and puts it out there.
Speech to text.
Very badly, especially the Australian accent. It's really bad with the Australian accent. So I just put that in there for fun because it gives me a little giggle reading them. And now that I've wasted a lot of time, we can go to the part of the show where each person recommends something from any time in their life, a book that they think that everyone should read, or just that they really loved. You don't even have to recommend it. It's just something that you just stayed with you. So we're going to go backwards. Start with you, Ed, just to really throw it out.
Okay. I got Bug and Stump, the Australian classic from '93. I got this one signed in '96 by Mark Sexton and John Petropoulos. So this is a really great black and white book from the '90s. Really sharp inking on this. I think they like the old Ninja Turtles, early Ninja Turtles. They just swapped over and drew and penciled different parts. They might have even drawn like each one did the different character and stuff.
Oh, cool.
But that's a really great classic Aussie comic. It was really important for me when I was a kid to see that there was Aussie people putting out books. That's great.
At least one of us knew. This guy didn't know there was Aussie books. No idea. I only learned 4 or 5 years ago. I think it worked. I don't know what the birthday is anymore. Ryan, I'll just go straight to you.
You're muted.
I am muted. Wonderful. The book I'm going to recommend goes back to the foundation of Vertigo imprint of DC Comics. It was the second original series brought out by Vertigo. The first one being connected to Magneto Testament, which was Death, the High Cost of Living. That was the first ever new series by Vertigo. I'm going to recommend Enigma.
Yeah.
Oh, I've heard that.
By Peter Milligan, Duncan Fagretto, and coloured by Sherilyn Van Valkenburg. So this one is about a young man who he's sort of, his life is in a bit of a spiral, and then he finds himself confronted by a supervillain who is supposed to not exist because he's supposed to just be from a comic book.
Sounds cool.
And then Enigma, the hero of that book, comes to his rescue, and they sort of get caught up in a bit of a chase around the world to try and figure out why all these supervillains are all of a sudden popping up out of comic books into the real world.
Fun.
Again, it's not there's some heavy themes in this book, so it's not for everyone. Well, it was Vertigo, so it's technically like MA, I guess, like when it comes to like rating. But it's available in this great hardcover called the Definitive Edition. I ended up getting this just through my local comic book store, so I believe it's still available to order. But yeah, it's wonderful. It's sort of a bit of a self-discovery type of book. Yeah, jump into it. It'll cool. Take you on a pretty wild ride, and the artwork is like nothing that I've ever seen in a book before. Like, it is nuts.
Oh, cool!
Wow.
Yeah, it's great.
Okay.
Yeah, I tried to think of something that I knew that a lot of people probably wouldn't have read. So,
nice.
jump on board. You won't be disappointed, especially if you like, Preacher and all those sort of more mature aged titles that were coming out of Vertigo at that time. This just slots straight in there.
I'm going to mix it up a bit now, and I'm going to do myself. Just so people realize, I've sold almost my entire comic collection other than the indie. So a lot of the things I'll be talking about, I don't have. Also, this is going to get hard because me and Ed have to recommend something every fortnight. But that's not what I'm not saying that because of this choice. I'm just saying that just putting it out there, this is going to get hard. So give me some leeway, like a couple of months from now, Ed. No? Oh, okay.
Tons of stuff.
Damn it. Okay, so the one that a comic book that really affected me when I was a bit younger. I wasn't a lot younger because it didn't come out until I was in my 20s, I think, which is still a long time ago. It was called The Ultimates.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I'm a big sucker for Elseworlds and variant universes and all that sort of stuff. So that probably made me a fan straight away. But I only had a basic knowledge of the Avengers. I never got into the Avengers, but I knew enough to know this was way different. That it was similar, but way different. And the fact that it was an adult type book as well, when Avengers was very much a kid's book. I mean, the best way to sum it up is Hulk is horny and he's going to kill his girlfriend's date. So, I mean, that tells you straight away where it is compared to normal Avengers. And he eats his enemy. And so that's just, he kills him and then eats him. That's the Hulk I'm talking about. So it's pretty full on. A different version of them all. It is definitely adult. I mean, there's things like domestic violence is in there, all sorts of stuff. I just loved it because I wasn't used to stuff like that. I just read mostly X-Men and New Mutants and Justice League and all that sort of stuff to that date. So I hadn't seen anything that had tackled. I mean, I've seen adult topics tackled in those books, don't get me wrong, but not in your face like this was. So it was really cool, and it was a really cool read. I've heard that it goes a bit downhill after the first year or two, but I don't know if that's true or not. That's just what I've heard. I've only read the first trade, and it was awesome. So that's my thing. If you want to read something really cool where a take on the Avengers is just like, what the hell? That's a cool book. And on that note, I will pick on Dr. Evil. Oh, sorry. I just saw the cat. I got confused. Janine.
The real star of the show.
Okay. So, look, I really have always enjoyed Dean Giles' books, the Super Under Indian books. I can never say it. And I loved his Christmas one. So his first book, but his Christmas book, the third issue this last Christmas, truly the best evil reindeer I've ever seen, and I don't think I'll ever be able to. I don't think I'll ever be able to do Christmas without knowing that there's a truly evil reindeer out there. So thank you, Dean. But this one, I'm sure it's only been out a few years. So The Last Son, and what it is a mixture of a lot of backstories and the death of Superman. I think he's died about, I don't know, a dozen times or something out there. So it's just a mixture of a whole heap of I don't know if you can see this. Let me take the slip cover off it. It's hard to see. but it gives you, it just gives you all the different books
Okay.
that are in there, that are in the thing. So it doesn't follow through in any sequence at all. They're different storylines, different batches of books. But there's a Bizarro. I love it. Every time I read this particular Bizarro, it just makes me chuckle when I turn the page and I see it, because he's on an alternative universe that he's made himself. Of course, Bizarro does things like that.
Of course.
And he's trying really hard. Whoops, he's trying really hard to bring in things on his world that Superman does on Earth. But when you get to this particular page, it's his version of the Justice League. If I can ever get the book open at the proper place. Here we go.
I think I've seen this picture.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one.
Makes me chuckle every time.
That reminds me of a Super Friends episode from the 80s.
And of course, Flash goes to run and he lays down and says, "Oh, I'm too tired," and it's just, yeah. So that particular one, I mean, Superman, it's been around all my life, and I did weep at one of the movies where I thought he was dead. I was weeping so hard that I forgot to see that he wasn't dead. But so through the last it's about his death and who's hurting him and who's going to do this and who's going to do that and how he comes back and his reinvention. So I really have enjoyed. That's probably one of the things that I've been able to read that I've enjoyed, over the last few years, especially Bizarro. So that's me. I'm over.
Gotta love Bizarro, man. He's just
I love that additions to Bizarro. I love the lantern shooting himself in the face by accident. That's classic.
Know. And of course, they go on to fight. They go on to fight the different, all the evil, like the Joker and all that sort of stuff that Bizarro's made. I'll see if I can find a picture of the Joker.
What would he be? The serious fellow or something? I don't know.
Oh no, they're Bizarro's aim of covering it, the Hulk and all that. So it's sort of. So Wonder Woman, Wonder Woman's robe.
That's awesome.
It's just so I've always loved Bizarro, and it was just an added best thing to have it in here, in this book.
That's cool.
So yeah,
nice.
Awesome.
We're just gonna skip Brad. No,
Yeah.
So Brad, what would you recommend, buddy?
Well, like when I was in. This is probably one that's been well trodden, and probably everyone's like, duh. But I, when I was in Melbourne for this last Supernova, I had the honour of meeting Mike Zeck, ex-Marvel and DC, and he was a really lovely gentleman. And like pretty much everyone there, we're all there to get the issues of Fearful Symmetry, Craven's Last Hunt. Signed, and like I was talking to these young blokes behind me in the queue, just saying, man, this is like one of the greatest, if not the best, Spider-Man story ever told. It's just, for its day, it was so bold and just it went somewhere that it had never been before. And he was a quiet guy, but he piped up and he said, "Oh, that makes me feel really, really, that really pleases me to hear that." He goes, it just. He said, "I knew when I read the script it was something that was really different and pretty heavy." And he said that Craven, up until that point, Craven was pretty much a B grade Spider-Man villain that just no one really got him. Like, he'd never really been defined. until DeMatteis did this story, and he knew he had to do this story. And Mike Zeck's artwork is incredible in it. It's actually you're better off buying it as a trade, because it was running through the 3 Spider-Man titles, so it was Amazing, then Spectacular, then Web of Spider-Man, and then it repeated it. So it's a 6-issue series. And it kind of deals with Craven's, just inability to ever actually beat Spider-Man, and basically his quest to, fulfill his destiny. Knowing that at the end of it, he's not gonna come out of it. It also, it deals with suicide. So trigger warning: if you're doing it tough out there, ring Beyond Blue and Lifeline, and You Are Loved. All of that, but they copped a lot of stick for it at the time. But it's an amazing story. It stands up the test of time. The artwork's still amazing. The story's great. 6 issues, just still, I think people will still be talking about it in 100 years. So yeah, I was just, it's a well-trodden one. It's one everyone knows, but for me, it was brought back to my consciousness because of meeting Mike and hearing his thoughts on it. So that was really nice. So yeah, highly recommend. Cool. If you haven't read it, go out and get it as a trade paperback. It's out there. You can do it.
If you look at the level of detail he puts into the Craven story, versus like Secret Wars, where he has to draw 10 guys on each panel.
Yeah,
it's kind of simple, but then when he's just drawing 2 or 3 people, like he goes in on the pencils. It's so detailed. It does,
and the entire story, it's raining. It's just he goes through a lot of detail of the cityscape, a lot of great imagery of spiders and rats, and just all sorts of stuff. It's like when I first got to the newsagent, the point you made earlier, Janine, about just getting stuff from the newsagent. I think it's one of the greatest tragedies now that kids can't walk into a news agency and buy a comic. Like that, right? It's just it's one of the worst things that's ever happened when they got rid of that, because that's how most of us started back in the day. So anyway,
newsagent, same.
Yep.
So that's what comic book shops are for now. Supporting the comic book shops. But I think the hardest thing about the news agency, even then, they're not being supported.
No.
So and one of the things I hate to see is our comics in places like W or Woolies that are red in the aisle. So it's good that they're being read and they're being carried around each aisle by the kids while their parents are buying their weekly shop, and then they're put back on the shelf. It's not the library. So but yeah, my kids, we used to do a news agency every week.
Well, I was going to say, where I grew up, that was all there was to get comics. There was the newsagent, and there was the secondhand book shop. That was it.
Yeah.
And it was great because you could get these 3-packs where you'd buy it for one, but inside there'd be 2 others, and you'd pull it out and go, "Oh, I didn't expect to get this, but I'm going to go and try and get more of these." So it's how it all started,
I met a Koori guy once who sort of pulled out of his back pocket a comic that it was folded in half, and that was up in the Northern Territory, and he sort of was sitting in the street, and I was in a coffee shop, and he pulled out this comic from his back pocket. It was red dust covered and well read and everything, and he just sat down and reread it again, and you're sort of thinking, that's it's worth gold, that book, and yet people won't buy it now. It'll be $1 or it's not worth anything, but it has been so loved.
Here's another thing too, is there's so much out there that it's just not possible for everyone to buy everything that they could possibly want to read. But there's something that you can do that kind of hits two nails on the head at the same time. You can support your local library. You can borrow comics from your library. The more comics you borrow from your library, the more comics they will buy, because all across Australia, that section of local libraries is being gutted. Every year, more and more is getting taken away, and the budgets are shrinking for visual media in your library. But you can actually also go to your library if there's a comic book that you want to read and they don't stock it. We're talking about graphic novels rather than just like single issues.
Single issues, yeah.
Go to your local library and request them to purchase a copy of that book. Most of the time, your local library will have funds set aside specifically for those sort of purposes. And a lot of the time, they will buy that stock from their local comic book shop. So you can support your library and you can support your local comic book shop in that way.
That's a really good message, Ryan.
Yeah, sometimes they do. Sometimes they get a better discount from their main purchases. So I think some of the books, some of the schools buy through comic book shops, but my experience was the library had their own access to those things.
Your mileage may vary when it comes to who your purchaser is for that specific library as an individual. Some of them are quite invested into ensuring access and supporting local businesses, and then some of them, like any other business, are not going to care.
Absolutely. It depends on the council, I think. I think that's true. I think that's true.
Well, this is the part where we come to the thank yous. Where I get to say thank you, Ed, for pushing the buttons. I get to say thank you to our guests, Janine, Bradley, and Ryan, for letting us know about what they've read recently and what they recommended as well from their lifetime of reading comics. And I'm just going to put this up again just to remind you, if you're watching, and thank you for watching, if you want to come on to the show, this is where you go. I can't put my hand over there because Ed's in the way. But we're under Ed, the show, ComX show interest with slashes and dots and all that sort of stuff. I should probably say it properly in case this goes onto a Spotify or something. So comx.show/interest. And that'll take you to a page which has a form. You give us some information. I'll get in contact with you personally, and we'll talk about getting you onto the show. Thank you, Nick. And thank you, everyone else who was watching. Thank you, everyone who watches the show later. And I'd like to thank you for liking the video. I'd like to thank you for subscribing to the channel. And I'd like to thank you for sharing it. And if you didn't do all those things, well, here's your chance to. So thank you, or just thank you. I'll do this every show because I'm horrible at doing the thank you part, so I'll just say thank you to everyone, and over you to Ed to do the outro.
Like, share, and subscribe.